That's what they say in Odia, right? अर्घ्य. हाँ, पर मेरा मोमेंट भी तो काउंट होता है. ये आपका मोमेंट नहीं है, मेरा मोमेंट है. I know who is having the biggest smile today. ଭଲ ଅଛନ୍ତି କି? Especially after that, बहुत भला. Okay. ओम सहनाववतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यंकरमावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम. In the last 4 weeks, all that which you have been hearing, how much of what you heard was the first time that you are hearing it? You have heard it before? Or was it the first time that you were hearing it? How many of you were hearing it for the first time? Okay, glad. And there are about 11 or 12 discourses so far, and no two talks are the same. Otherwise, when I start the day with one topic, I keep repeating the same topic and same thing, I'll get bored. So I keep it different. So if you think that it has reached across and helped, please go through the other in the series. That way you will get a comprehensive picture. Like today I have been covering a particular topic called appropriation and misappropriation. And the second topic that I have been talking about is, we as Hindu, we as Bharatiya seem to be constantly defensive and apologetic with regards to our culture, tradition, customs, religion, practices, beliefs, everything. Why have we ended up being this way? That is the point of discussion that I have been having since morning. In the last 2 sessions, I took up the topic about misappropriation of yoga, yogasana. That technically, according to the Yoga Shastra, it is not called yoga, it is called asana. But we don't blink an eye when we are being told that it is yoga. And there are those who correct me telling that, Swamiji, it is yoga only. No, it is not yoga, it is asana, which happens to be the 3rd step of the 8 limbs. So much is the misappropriation that what does appropriation and misappropriation mean? Before I can go, what is the yoga misappropriation? Have you heard this usage of word appropriation and misappropriation? You have. So what is the understanding that you carry? She is specifically talking about, because that is the reference that you will find in the urban dictionaries, about the Pop culture appropriation, misappropriation, that would be a pretty good definition, where there is a mimicking aspect of culture and traditions, and when it is portrayed in, that mimicking is portrayed in a negative fashion, it is misappropriation. A deeper analysis of it, we come to realize that appropriation is that when the very core of culture, tradition and the customs and beliefs, the core of it is taken and they make use of it, they thrive on it, whoever is taking it, without acknowledging that from where it has been taken, and after having benefited or while benefiting through it, they put the very society from which, or the community from which it has been taken, in a cornered situation by portraying it in a negative term, by disconnecting it and de-alienating it from its source or root. I am putting it in a very layman's terms for us to understand and grasp those. I am removing the technicalities through. So yoga has been going through right in front of our eyes. And this misappropriation is not happening just today or yesterday. It has been happening for generations, for centuries, for at least a millennia. We will come to that. So the first session I talked about yoga. So if you want to listen to more about that misappropriation, covered in the first topic. In the second, which was during the teacher's satsang, I covered about the misappropriation of, you were there. I referred to the swastika and how it has been appropriated, and now we have to be defensive, wherein California and New York State and couple of others in north upstate, where they are trying to pass a law that use and display of swastika symbol is to be banned, liable to be a felony if used. So again, the last topic I went into detail, but I will briefly mention. As soon as we hear the word swastika, what comes into your mind? What is it that immediately pops in your head? I am just checking, is it a Hindu environment? Bunch of Hindus sitting in a Hindu environment talking about a Hindu symbol, what comes into your mind, sir? Nazi. थोड़ी देर से बोले होंगे, उनके बाद धीरे से, ठीक है, सुना ही नहीं दिया, sorry. But the point is, जो भी हो, but you are not far away when I say that Hindus also, the first thought that comes is not the swasti chihna, but it is the Nazi movement, Hitler, that comes into our mind. Here we see both appropriating it and misappropriating it. Hitler himself wrote his kind of an autobiography that is called Mein Kampf. In that, he refers to the symbol that they use. Do you know what it is referred to as? Heckenkreuz or hooked cross. That is what it is referred to in that European belt. Why? I will come back to it a little later. But when this Mein Kampf was being translated into English, there was a Catholic priest that was employed, and he translated it from Heckenkreuz, which is a hooked cross. Heckenkreuz is in German language. When translated into English, he deliberately translates it into swastika, so that it can be put as far away, the Nazi movement can be put as far away from its religious connections. What was the religious connection of the Nazi movement? It was Christian, more specifically Protestant Christian, and more detailed is Lutheran Christian. There are several Protestant denominations, of which the primary one, it started from Martin Luther. And when I say Martin Luther, I am not talking about the junior namesake. I am talking of the original, who started an active campaign against Catholicism and broke away from Catholicism. So he protested. Martin Luther protested against Catholicism. Therefore, it is called Protestant Christian. And in their Protestant group, having the hooked cross, the sign symbol that which you find in the Nazi, that symbol is used by the Lutheran Christians. To distance anything to do with Christianity as the origin of this hatred and Nazi movement, which had severe impact on the Jewish people. But what, 5 million, 6 million people? Mercilessly killed for just being the fact that they were Jew in their belief. And where was that coming from, that hatred? It had remotely nothing to do, even an iota, with swastika or Hinduism. But today the bill is being presented as the Hindu hatred symbol called swastika to be banned. इसे कहते हैं हिंदी में ना, जान न पहचान मैं तेरा मेहमान. कोई संबंध भी नहीं है, like there is nothing related directly or indirectly with Hinduism. Just because of a bad translation or a deliberate translation to alienate it from the Christian roots, they put it as swastika. That is called appropriation. They grabbed it. And today, how is it being misappropriated? That all this hatred is from Hinduism. Poor fellow that who killed himself, he must have been turning in his grave, if he is in a grave. I am talking about Hitler. मुझे हिंदू क्यों बना रहे हो? So that was covered in the last session. I also covered the misappropriation is not just in terms of religion and the religious ethos, but they will cry foul about Ayurveda. Okay, the Western academic outlook and research on Ayurveda is, it is primitive, useless technology. But that which is the soul of this Ayurveda, which is the herbs. The herbs are taken and patented. At least an attempt was being made. Or every few years there is an attempt being made to patent one or the other herb or bunch of herbs. Turmeric. Right? Did you know that turmeric was being patented to be de-alienated from the Asiatic use? There is a rice variety called Texmati, A&M. researched and produced. Are you a student of A&M? Your mom is an A&M student?
No, mom of an A&M student.
Oh, mom of an A&M student, okay.
Aggie mom.
Aggie mom. So A&M produced it and they wanted to appropriate the word basmati and patent it. Now, basmati is the rice for centuries or millenniums that has been in our tradition. That which is the food, that also is being snatched away. Herbs, foods, technologies, culture. You know, the number system that you write 1, 2, 3, 4, the numericals. There are two ways that you can write it. That's how I learned growing up. What are those two ways? मुझे क्या मालूम स्वामी जी, आप पढ़े हो, आप कह रहे हैं कि दो मालूम है, आपको मुझे हमसे पूछ रहे हो? We generally growing up were taught those two systems. What are those two systems? And what is the other number system which we normally use? What is it called? हाँ, वही न्यूमेरिकल्स का एक नाम है. Roman is also numerical. This is also numerical. एंग्लो अंगूठा छापता यार. It's usually learned as Arabic numerals. We can search. Smartphone है ना? Also पूज्य Googleshwar. Right? Now those Arabic numerals, how did it become Arabic numeral? You all have smart gadget, please take it out. Please help me. हाँ जी? Who, please type this in your Google thing. Who translated Indian mathematics or Indian math knowledge system into Arabic? The first two links you should find a name. Huh? No. Fibonacci theorem was also misappropriated. We will come to that later. One at a time. Al-Khwarizmi is a co-conspirator or co-person that, but the actual person that came to India, learnt Sanskritam, learnt in Kerala and in Tamil Nadu systems in the 11th century was Albaruni. So he learnt not just mathematics but science, philosophy, medicine system. अब आप कहते हैं ना, there is one medicine system called Unani, the Iranian system. The Parsis, it is not their invention. It was taken in 11th century from or by Albaruni. He translated it into Farsi and Arabic. That which was translated into Arabic was taken hold by the Spanish, French, Portuguese and British. Because they got it from Albaruni's work, they called that number system as Arabic numerals. The whole number system, because Aryabhatta, Bhaskaracharya Padmavati, Leelavati. There are several scholars. They talk about differentials, they talk about calculus, they talk about geometry, including architecture. Albaruni translated it from learning it in India. And then we are told, misappropriated is there, we are told that all the architecture in India came from Middle East. Appropriated and misappropriated. So from now till the ancient millennium, last millennium, constantly it was not just the wealth that was looted, along with the wealth by all these different invaders, they have looted when they were resisted. Let me give you a story of resistance. How many of you have gone to Amritsar? बढ़िया, 3 लोग, 2 एक ही फैमिली से हैं. You must have visited the Golden Temple, Gurudwara there. गए आप? There are several entry points into that Gurudwara, but there is Mukhya Dwar, the main entry point. If you, while you were there, had taken a photograph at that entry point, because at that time you would not have paid attention, there is a huge door at the entry. Active, usable door, which is used even today. Does not match with the rest of the architecture, but it is still in use. Does anybody remember having seen it, of the 3 of you? Otherwise, anyatha sharanam nasti, Google eva sharanam tava. Picture of Golden Temple, Amritsar's gates. Main entrance gate. Those gates are not an original part of Amritsar temple, but it was one of the later Islamic invaders who had gone into Gujarat destroying Somnath. I am not talking of Ghaznavi and Gori, the later ones. I don't remember their name, it is on the tip of my tongue. So he, after having done enough destruction to Somnath temple, along with his army, the entire gate, Dwara, of that Somnath temple was being carried to Turkey, where the Sikh Pantha, they resisted, they fought and snatched all the wealth, including the door. When the Sisodias were reached out, Sisodias are the king dynasty, the royal dynasty from Gujarat, when they were reached out saying, we have all the wealth and we have the door. He said, wealth we don't want, the door we don't want. But for the, it's not that he said we don't want, for having stood up to protect, may we request you to honor that door as your dwara for your temple. And that is when the Somnath temple's dwara became the dwara for the Golden Temple. So it is not just the wealth, not just the resources, not just the commodities, knowledge, wisdom, books, technologies were siphoned off. Now when we hear this, there is another topic that I am covering today, is when we hear all of this, we as a community, we as Hindus are usually, with regards to our culture, tradition and practices, when questioned, we end up being cornered, we end up being apologetic or defensive. No, 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 it is not like that, you are misunderstanding it, it is actually, and we go into some lame reasons which we also don't know. Have your children ever, or you with your children, did you ever have a discussion as to why we are insistent about using right hand versus left hand? Did you ever have a discussion with your children? But why? Because as they grow, they have these two stupid questions and they think they are the wisest on the surface of earth. When you ask them to do something, they will ask, but why? That nasally, irritable sound. And at the end of it, if you ask them not to do something, then why not? Oh, rag mein hota hai, that nasally, irritable rag. Have you ever been with a discussion, why right hand, why not left hand? Yes or no? What was the best answer that you have given to your children? Why right, why not left? Because growing up, I was told right hand is the pure hand, left hand is the impure, dirty hand. I have been whacked by my parents and their siblings for being brutally blunt about a lot of things while growing up. I have been top spinned by all of them. Top spin meaning, you understand, right? My question to them was, both right hand and left hand is me. How can it be that it is pure and it is impure? I have washed it. It didn't make sense, but that is the best logic that we give, right? And then there is a desperation for a sophisticated Hindu to prove it as being very, very scientific. For anything that we do, it is scientific. But you cannot just pluck in and put anything and everything just for justification. That is when we become apologetic, defensive, and pathetic in trying to present our own self to the next generation. Let me just cover that particular topic about right versus left so that we can move forward. Otherwise, that question will still be in your mind. विक्रम बेताल की कहानी तो पूरी हो गई, पर ये क्वेश्चन बेताल की तरह लटकता रहेगा. Those who have seen through the brain structure, right hemisphere controls the left part and the left hemisphere controls the right part. Left hemisphere is where logic, sequencing and tarka happens, in that part of the brain, whereas the right part of the brain is where there is the art, music and things like that. That is on the right part of the brain. We are insisted to give or take or do things with our right hand because for every act that is being done, a correlating, logical, awareful presence in that particular act has to be engaged, consciously engaged. Therefore, right hand, because it correlates to the logical part, which is the natural sequence of things. not because right is bad, right is good and left is dirty or yucky. Am I getting across? As an extension of the same logic, because we are in that logic, let me bring in a loop into that. That is why when we say Namaste, we are asked to put both hands together. Why? Wherever my right part of mind is, wherever my left part of brain is, I bring it to this present moment to recognize, acknowledge your presence to who I am offering my salutations. This is called Chitta Ekagrata, Trikarana Shuddhi. Manasa, Vacha, Karmana, to be in the same place 100% is to respect that individual maximum. Supposing I am speaking to you but you are busy on your phone, or the other way around, you are speaking to me and I am busy on the phone, what would you interpret of me? Boliye. It would be considered as rude, neglecting, to a certain extent disrespecting also. Why? You are not there 100%. Right? Another classic. When you are speaking with your own genetic extension, you know who I am talking about? Your own chinku tinku pinku minku. Right? You are trying to give your peace of mind to them. Who wants to receive it? Nobody, no generation ever wanted that. But you are very busy trying to give it. What does the next generation do? The best depiction, I still, whenever I see it, I laugh at it, is Charlie Brown. Have you seen this comic strip, Charlie Brown? Whenever serious thing is being told to the dog, what does the dog hear? Wow, 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 wow. Lines after lines after lines after lines is, it's hearing only wow, 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 wow. That is what children are hearing the moment you start. You know that that is what is. They're ignoring whatever you are saying. Therefore, what is one common dialogue that every parent tells to every kid that they are annoyed about? When I'm speaking to you, look at me when I'm speaking to you. Do you say that? Have you said that? ¿Por qué? Why? Because you want 100% undivided attention. The same attention you have to give to the rest of the world as well. Therefore, put your hands together. That way, it is an act, a symbolic act to bring both hemispheres of your mind to this particular moment so that you respectfully be there 100% to acknowledge the other person. है ना बढ़िया सी बात? But in our own half-baked, left is dirty, right is awesome. Right is right, left is dirty. No, that's not how it is. But we seldom go deeper, usually skim and be either defensive or apologetic. So, when I start analyzing why are people being so apologetic about their own systems, custom, tradition, which our ancestors have implicitly followed without diluting it in the name of convenience. They have lived very robust life, resisting, being resilient to these practices. Because they believed that they benefited, they transmitted that whole technology to the next generation, even though the next generation does not understand that it has been transmitted. That is how seamlessly transference of knowledge has happened. In the corporate world, when teams change, there's a whole week spent on KT. What does that is called? KT. I was shocked because I thought Karen Dillers. It is knowledge transfer. Without any such burden, just by culturally living this life, you've already picked it up. You just have to connect the dots as to why we do what we do. But the doing portion has already been inculcated. But when that is being brought, when do we feel hurt? When do we feel awkward? When do we feel let down? That which I am practicing, my child does not practice it, but in turn challenges my practices as well. Then with lack of answers, we cut sorry figures, and there are some classic ones that say, when you talk about our culture, our history, our customs, traditions, and learn this history, one of the best answers that people give is, it is boring, history is boring. When you talk of history, or when you try to get across, this is boring, can we do something more interesting? Something which gives the adrenaline rush. This doesn't have that. Do you know why we find it boring? We find it boring because most of the learning happens because of the teacher who has tried connecting to us as an individual, and that the teacher cares for us. In that care and connection, we end up liking the teacher, thereby liking the subject that the teacher is teaching. That's one reason. Second, the teacher has made it their task to come down to our levels without putting the awkwardness of burden on us, but to peel that knowledge system and put it in a presentable pattern for us to appreciate, digest, and practice. That is when the knowledge has become appreciated. For most of us, especially in the last 2-3 generations, when we talk about history, not much focus. Why? Teaching job itself was considered as a last option, last resort. At least in my native language, there is a saying. Anybody Telugu or background? With regards to teaching and teacher, there is a saying. Not great about teaching, but something. Does anybody remember that saying? ఏమీ చేయలేని వాడు బడి పంతులు అవుతాడు. When you find yourself good for nothing at anything else in life, then you choose to become a teacher in a school. You have not heard that? You have heard it, right? ఏమీ చేయలేనటువంటి వాడు, and there is a word in between, but I am not saying it. The one who is not fit to do anything else in life, they become a teacher at school. Now, such a teacher, for who it was a last resort, why? Why was it a last resort? For at least last 2, 3, 4 generations, after 1947, after independence, when we got to where we are, do you know why we insist so much? I try to sit down, analyze almost everything that, I process it a lot. Desi mindset. Have you heard of that? What do we want for our next generation children? That they have to be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, a software, a hardware, because otherwise we believe they will be nowhere. Why that insistence? Have you tried analyzing it? Why? Yes. See, 1 billion population is what you had to fight for to find a footing back in India. Now it is 1.4 billion, but 1 billion population you have to fight with to find your worth of existence. The rest of it will not give you financial stability. I remember when I had gone asking my dad to learn violin. Have I ever shared that experience with you? I wanted to learn violin, and my dad, because my vocal cords don't listen to me. I have tried singing, but it never works. So I said, at least I love violin or flute. So one of those, can I go learn? So I was pestering him quite a bit. So one day he took me, we were in Bombay living at that time. So he took me to Andheri, then to Chowpatty. He never was a proponent of eating outside, but that day he made sure we had street food. And then after that, we sat at Chowpatty, there was the intersection, and he said, describe the intersection. That was the intersection where there were a lot of beggars. So I said, this car, that auto, this, that, and then there is the thela walas, the fruit walas, the beggars. I said, now, do you find the beggar having a violin or a flute? No. I said, even the beggar understands that having a violin or a flute cannot sustain you. That was his net conclusion. Therefore, why mood? Meaning, why mood means, please correct your mood and go study. And that is what. That is how we were treated growing up. Why? One reason that I find is, after independence, each one of the family units were left to fend for themselves to find stability. And that stability, generation after generation, we found it in profession that gives financial. There are several kinds of stabilities: emotional stability, spiritual stability, financial stability, status and the stability born out of it. There are a lot of stabilities. The least denominator that one can build upon is financial stability. And that mindset has gone so deep that we now have put it along with our respect, our ethos, our value, that if you are not a doctor, not an engineer, not a lawyer, then you are good for nothing, you are a loser. Why? That is a very insulting thing to be as an Indian. That is how we have now calculated it to be. Right? It has gone deep into our very thinking system. So if that which does not provide me this financial stability, history will never provide. Okay, history pad liya bhai. At the most, what can you do? What is the best job that you can get? When you are left with no useful options, you end up becoming a teacher. Abhi bataya tha. Other than teacher, what else can you do with being a history major? Research professor writing books. Right? Beyond that, there is no scope. But you will be shocked, you will be surprised, you will be amazed. Both California state as well as New York state, I'm talking of relevance of history. If you don't become a part of that history, you don't understand it, how you get sucked by the present moment for your lack of unawareness of your own history. So to that, two examples I'll give. State of California and state of New York are trying to pass the bill to ban swastika. I have already connected the dots there. State of California, right around the time where this dismantling global Hindutva was happening, they introduced, there was a court case that was happening at that time. Now the result of that court case, which happened because of Cisco, the California state is introducing a bill. I think it has already passed in 4 university systems. Now the entire Californian university system, education system is trying to implement it, that as a Indian, as a Hindu, if you are trying to apply to California state school systems, college systems, university systems, hospital systems, jobs, you will be looked at if you are getting qualified for the job based on your caste. They have already passed the bill. Were you aware of it? When there can be a lot of questions that you want to ask, I would say type COHONA. लिख लो कहीं पे. California Caste Bill. Kohona hyphen. Type that. It will take you to the Kohona page where you have the articles on explaining what this caste bill is. Now to support that, 45 universities want to get this system. Now in the last 25, 35, 45 years that you have lived as your personal experience, was you belonging to a caste ever a problem growing up living here in this country? Can I hear it very distinctly, clearly? It was never a part of our living experience growing up here. You might have had a discussion about it back in India and therefore you wanted to avoid it, disconnect from it, de-alienate from it, stay here as far away as possible. But because we ran away from it but did not research into it, did not try understanding it, now it comes back to bite, where those who have created the very definition of caste, which is the Europe Mandali hai na beech mein, the Portuguese, Spanish, a caste system is an integral part of their culture, not our culture. We have Varna, we have Jati, we have Kula, we have Gotra, we have Sampradaya. We don't have caste. But they have interpreted our Varna as caste system. Now we have to be held responsible, cornered, because there is a bill today, which even New York State is trying to pass, that we will get jobs, we will get our validation if we apply based on caste. समझ रहे हैं आप बात? So the point that I am trying to make is, does history be an integral part? Does it play an active role in my present. Just because I am like the cat which has closed its eyes and I neglect my past, it is not the most viable solution because it will come back to bite you. Those who neglect the past, those who neglect their history, history comes back to bite them in the most inappropriate corners of intersection. Such a community can never build a prudent future. So let's come to that. What kind of future do you want as a community and for your next generation of children? Secure, happy, prosperous, chahiye ki nahi? So you have to take a measure in your present, and that present should include your past, without which you are directionless. So stop being defensive, stop being apologetic. Whatever is bothering, try finding what its root cause is. Go to the root cause. Last few weeks you have asked what kind of books that you should be studying. Last week I said Jadunath Sarkar and Majumdar. I would add, and I said on caste system, I said Nicholas B. Dirk. I would add more into that repartee. The list of Ram Swarup, he has about 30-40 books, very voluminous, very well researched books. Ram Swarup, Sitaram Goel, and the last one that I would include this is Sankar Saran. Sankar Saranji has written mostly in Hindi. His works have not been, there are a couple of books of his in English as well. He has been a research, Shankar Saran is of the recent past. Like he's still there, he is alive, he still writes books, but his research is of the recent past, but amazing research that he has done. You will in fact find even YouTube videos of his. So this would be the resources for you to check it out. I'll conclude today. We'll come back next week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.